You ever had a day that didn't just change your life, it changed the way you breathe? Well, mine began on a cold Thursday morning. I was standing in my kitchen, stirring my coffee, listening to the old clock tap its way through the silence. And then my phone buzzed, a notification from my car's tracking app. My car was moving, and I was very much at home. I didn't panic at first. You raise children long enough, and you learn the difference between an emergency and a situation that's about to become one. I called her, my daughter, Maya, 17, brilliant, stubborn, and carrying a whole universe of emotions she still doesn't know how to hold. Phone rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. And I felt something inside me tighten. Not anger, not yet, just that heavy mother worry that drips down your spine like cold water. She took my car without asking. A small thing to some folks, but to me, it was a sign. A sign that something in my child's spirit was slipping out of my reach. So I grabbed my keys, sat in my sister's old sedan, and started following that little blue dot on my phone. I remember my hands shaking on the wheel, not because I feared the worst, but because I feared the truth. You see, when children hide, it's usually because they think the truth will break your heart. And sometimes they're right. The dot stopped, behind an abandoned warehouse on the south side, a place where no child, especially not mine, should ever be. I parked, got out, the wind cut through me like it remembered every mistake I'd ever made. And as I stepped forward, I heard laughter. Young, careless, sharp like broken glass. Then I slipped, fell hard on the gravel. Their laughter snapped even louder. But the moment they saw who reached out and lifted me up, that laughter froze. Because it wasn't a teenager, and it wasn't Maya. It was a man I prayed I would never see again. That was the moment I knew my past had come back for my child. When I looked up and saw him standing over me, my whole body forgot how to breathe. 25 years had passed, but that man, Darius, he hadn't aged a day in my fear. "Well, look who the wind blew back," he said. His voice was the same, smooth, charming, poison wearing a smile. I pulled my hand away from his. I would have rather gotten up off that ground on broken bones than let him steady me. Behind him, I saw Maya, my baby, my stubborn, brilliant, hurting baby, standing with those kids, trying to hide behind her anger. And for the first time that day, real fear dug its claws into me. "Mama," she started, but her voice cracked. She looked like she'd been carrying a secret too heavy for her small shoulders. I whispered, "Why are you here, Maya?" But my eyes never left Darius. He laughed, that deep, mocking laugh that used to make me shrink inside myself. "She came looking for answers," he said, "just like you once did." Those kids behind him shifted. Their faces turned serious, like they finally realized this man wasn't someone to joke around with. And suddenly, I wasn't in that alley anymore. I was 22 again, standing in a too-small apartment, a young mother with a baby on her hip and fear in her chest, listening to this same man promise the world while taking pieces of me one by one. I shook my head hard, dragging myself back to the present. "Maya," I said slowly, "get in the car." She hesitated, not because she didn't hear me, but because her heart was tied to something she didn't understand, something he had fed, something dangerous. Darius stepped closer, too close. "She didn't tell you, did she?" he whispered. his breath cold against the morning air. Maya looked away. Her chin trembled, and right then I knew this wasn't just about a stolen car. My daughter had gone searching for something in the shadows of my past, something I never told her. "Enough," I said. My voice came out stronger than I felt. "Stay away from my child." He smiled, slow, knowing, the kind of smile that says the story isn't over. I took Maya's arm gently and guided her toward the car. Her body was shaking, mine too. Once we were inside, I locked the doors, placed my hand over hers, and whispered, "Baby, what did you come here looking for?" She didn't answer. She just looked at me, eyes full of questions I was terrified to face. And as I drove away, I realized something that broke me a little inside. Maya wasn't running from me. She was running toward something she believed Darius knew. And the worst part? She might have been right. The drive home was the longest 15 minutes of my life. Maya stared out the window the whole time, her reflection looking older than her years, like she'd seen something she wasn't ready to see. I kept glancing at her, wishing I could climb inside her silence and pull her back to me. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. Her voice was low, almost afraid. "Mama, why didn't you ever tell me about him?" I froze. My hand stopped on the gear shift. That one question hit me harder than the fall on that gravel. "Maya," I whispered, "there are things in my past I kept buried because I wanted you to grow without my shadows." She turned toward me slowly. Her eyes, Lord, her eyes were full of hurt. "But they're my shadows too," she said. "I had a right to know." I felt my chest tighten, a sharp, guilty kind of pain, the kind only a mother feels when her child sees the cracks she tried so hard to hide. We sat there in silence for a moment. The car was warm, but my hands felt cold. "What did he tell you?" I finally asked. She hesitated, her fingers curled into fists, and that small gesture, it told me she was holding on to something heavy. "He said," her voice cracked, "he said you ran from him because of me." My whole body went still, like every bone had forgotten how to move. "Baby, no," I said, "that's not true." But she didn't look convinced, and why would she be? Secrets create gaps, and Darius knew exactly how to crawl into them. She wiped her eyes quickly, pretending she wasn't crying. "Mama, who is he to me?" My heart stopped completely because I knew exactly what she meant. For 17 years, I prayed she would never ask that question. But prayers don't erase truth. They just buy you time. I reached for her hand. She let me hold it, but her fingers trembled in mine. "Maya," I whispered, "Darius is not your father." She inhaled sharply, relief, confusion, hurt, all mixed into one shaky breath. Then why was he talking like he knew me? I looked away, out toward the neighbor's porch light flickering in the dusk. I couldn't face her eyes when I said the next words. "Because he knew who I was before I became your mother." The silence that followed felt like it could crack the air. She leaned back in her seat, staring at me as if she was meeting a stranger, as if she didn't recognize the woman she trusted all her life. And that look pierced me deeper than any wound Darius had ever given me. "Mama, what else haven't you told me?" I closed my eyes. I knew this moment would come someday. I just didn't think it would come like this, with lies from a dangerous man echoing in my child's ears. I opened my eyes slowly. "Come inside," I said softly. "I'll tell you everything." And as we walked toward the house, I felt something break inside me, a door I had kept locked for nearly 2 decades. And I knew, once I opened it, nothing in our lives would ever be the same. The moment we stepped into the house, the air felt heavier, like the walls themselves knew what was coming. I closed the door gently behind us, not to shut the world out, but because I didn't want the past leaking into the night air. Maya sank into the couch, pulling her knees up like she used to do when she was little, but this time, she wasn't seeking comfort. She was bracing herself. I sat across from her, feeling every year of my 60 resting heavy on my bones. "Baby," I said softly, "what I'm about to tell you, I should have told you long ago." She didn't speak. She just nodded, eyes locked on mine, a silent demand for truth. I took a slow breath. I met Darius when I was 22. Her eyebrows tightened. She was listening with her whole soul. Back then, I was a young mother, alone, tired, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and I was so desperate for someone to tell me I was more than my struggles. I swallowed hard. Even after all these years, it hurt to say the rest out loud. Darius came along with charm and smooth words. He made me feel seen, wanted, loved, or what I thought was love. Maya shifted, not out of impatience, but because she already knew where this was going. But love shouldn't hurt, baby, not the way he gave it. I folded my hands, watching them tremble. He was controlling, angry, always needing to be the one in power, and when I tried to leave, he made sure I couldn't. Maya's eyes softened. She whispered, "Mama," but I held up my hand gently. "Let me finish, baby. I need you to hear all of it." I stared at the floor, at the small crack in the tile I'd stepped over for years. Funny how we learn to walk around the things that hurt us. One night, I realized if I didn't leave for myself, I had to leave for the child I was carrying. Maya's breath caught. She leaned forward. "You weren't pregnant with me?" I shook my head slowly. "No, baby. I lost that child before you were born." Her hand covered her mouth. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mama." I managed a small smile. "It's all right. Life has its storms. Some knock you down, some wash you clean." I took another breath. The hardest part was coming. When I finally escaped, I changed cities, new job, new life, and when I found out I was pregnant with you, I promised myself you would never know that kind of darkness. Maya wiped her face. Her voice shook. "So why did he say I came from him? Why did he talk like he had some claim on me?" I leaned forward, took her hands in mine. "Because Darius doesn't want me. He wants control." Silence fell between us, heavy, painful, necessary. I brushed a tear from her cheek. "Baby, none of this is your fault. You aren't connected to him by blood, only by the scars he left on me." She whispered, "Then why did I feel like I needed to find him?" I closed my eyes. The truth tasted bitter. Because children feel the wounds their parents never speak about. She broke then, tears spilling freely, and I gathered her into my arms like I used to when she was 5, rocking her gently, whispering, I'm here, baby." And as she cried into my shoulder, I understood something painful. Hiding my past didn't protect her. It only made her chase its shadows. That night, after the tears slowed and our breathing finally found its rhythm again, Maya leaned back on the couch, wiping her face with the sleeve of her hoodie. I could tell she was exhausted, emotionally drained, like someone who had run miles carrying a secret on her back, and now she was trying to learn how to walk again. "Mama," she said quietly, "I didn't go looking for him to hurt you." Her voice trembled, but it was steady enough to break my heart. "I went because I felt like something was missing in me, something I couldn't explain. I nodded slowly. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to pour out whatever she'd been holding in. You were always strong, she continued, even when you were tired, even when we had nothing. But sometimes I felt like you were smiling over some deep, quiet sadness. She looked at me then, eyes softer, older, like she had aged years in a single afternoon. And I needed to know what that sadness was. I thought maybe he had the answers. I leaned forward, placed my hands gently on her knees. Baby, the sadness you saw in me wasn't your burden to carry. She shook her head, but it became my burden anyway. And Lord, hearing that felt like someone pressed their thumb into a bruise I'd been hiding for years. I'm sorry, I whispered. The words came out cracked, fragile, truthful. I thought silence would protect you. I thought pretending I'd healed would keep you from ever feeling the weight of my past. She sniffed softly, curling into herself a little. But pretending isn't healing, Mama. It's hiding, and I think we both got lost in what you tried to hide. Her words, they weren't said to hurt me. They were said to free both of us. I reached for her hand again. She squeezed mine this time, not out of fear, but out of connection. You asked what was missing in you, I said softly. It wasn't a person, it was understanding. Maya looked up, eyes glistening, searching my face. What do you mean? Every child grows inside their mother's body, I said, but they also grow inside her memories, her joys, her wounds. I let a long pause settle, a moment for the truth to breathe. You felt my pain, even though I never spoke it. That's why you went searching. She wiped another tear, but this time her shoulders relaxed, like the truth was finally loosening its grip. Mama, I never wanted his love. I just wanted to understand mine. Those words hit me deep, deeper than anything she had said all night. I pulled her close again, holding her like she was still my little girl with scraped knees. And you will, I whispered. Now that the truth is out, we both can finally breathe. Outside, the night was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been for years. And for the first time since Darius reappeared in our lives, the fear inside me loosened, just a little. The truth had cut us open, yes, but it had also started to heal us. I remember that morning like a bruise you can still feel, even after it turns yellow. I woke up, and my car was gone. Now listen, I'm 60 years old. I don't run anymore. I don't chase nobody anymore. But that morning, my heart ran without me. I checked the driveway twice, then 3 times, thinking maybe my eyes were lying, but the concrete was empty, and the silence was loud. I called her phone, no answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. You ever feel anger and fear mixing in your chest at the same time, like hot water poured into glass already cracked? That was me. And then I remembered something. My nephew had installed a tracking app in the car a year before because he said, "Auntie, I know you. You gonna forget where you parked someday." He didn't lie. But that day, that little app became my lifeline. I opened it. My hand was shaking so hard the phone almost slipped right out of it. And then I saw where she went. A part of town she had no business being in, a place I warned her about, a place where young girls disappear and mothers pray over cold pillows. My breath got tight, my knees got weak, but I grabbed my keys, well, the spare ones, and I got in my sister's truck. That whole drive, I wasn't thinking straight. My heart was speaking louder than my mind. I kept whispering, Lord, don't let my child be lost. Don't let my baby girl slip into something she can't climb out of. When I finally pulled up to the location, I didn't see my car at first. I saw shadows, figures moving, and music thumping through walls. A house party, the kind where grown men pretend they're boys and young girls pretend they're women. And right there, across the street, was my car. I felt something break inside me. Not anger, not fear, betrayal. Because it wasn't just the car she took. She took my trust. She took my peace. She took the last little bit of safety I thought I had with her. I stepped out of the truck and walked toward that house, slow, steady, like every step was a prayer and a warning at the same time. I didn't know what I would find inside, but I knew one thing. A mother's fear can turn into a mother's fire. And that night, I was burning. I stood there, outside that house, listening to the bass shaking the walls like a restless heartbeat. My palms were sweating, my throat felt tight, and every memory of raising that girl flashed behind my eyes. I walked up those steps slowly, one by one, like I was climbing toward a truth I wasn't ready to know. When I knocked, nobody heard me. The music swallowed the sound. So I knocked again, harder, my fist becoming the voice my fear couldn't speak. Then the door swung open. A boy, barely 18, looked at me like I was a ghost that wandered into the wrong world. He said, ma'am, this ain't. I cut him off. Where is my daughter? My voice didn't shake, my knees did, but my voice stood strong. He glanced over his shoulder, nervous, and that told me everything I needed to know. I stepped inside. The air smelled like smoke, cheap perfume, and lost decisions. Lights flashing, people laughing, music pounding, and not a single soul in that room cared about who might get hurt tomorrow. I pushed through the crowd, whispering her name under my breath. Aisha, baby, where are you? Then I saw something that made my whole body go still. Across the room, my daughter was dancing slow with a grown man, a man who had no business touching a 17-year-old girl. My heart broke and boiled at the same time. I started walking toward them, not fast, not loud, just steady, like a storm that knew exactly where it needed to land. I heard somebody laugh behind me, maybe at the way I looked, maybe because they thought a 60-year-old woman didn't belong in that scene. But when I stumbled on a loose floorboard and almost fell, the laughter stopped cold. Because a large hand reached out from behind me and caught my arm before I hit the floor. A deep voice said, "Ma'am, you don't want to be in here." I turned, and the man holding me up was the same man my daughter was dancing with. He looked me dead in the eyes, and a strange silence fell between us. Not anger, not fear, recognition. Like he finally understood exactly who I was. I was the mother who came to take her child home, and that night, nothing was going to stop me. The moment that man caught my arm, time slowed down, like the whole room took a breath. His grip wasn't rough, but it wasn't gentle either. It was the kind of hold a man uses when he's not sure if he should steady you or stop you. I looked at him, right in his eyes, and he looked back at me with a flicker of something sharp, curiosity, caution, maybe even guilt. I pulled my arm away, slow but sure, and I said, "Where is she?" He didn't answer, just stepped aside, like even he knew a mother's path isn't something you stand in. I walked deeper into that room. The music hit my chest like a punch, lights flashing red and blue, like danger had decorated itself for the night. My daughter finally noticed me. Her smile faded, then her whole face fell. She mouthed, "Mom," like she couldn't believe I existed outside the boundaries of her world. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just raised my hand and motioned, "Come, now." But she didn't move. She looked at her friends, then back at me, ashamed, irritated, embarrassed, all at once. And that hurt, the kind of hurt that digs deep because you realize your child's pride means more to them than your peace. One of the girls at the party whispered loudly, "Dang, her mama really came in here?" A few people laughed, like motherhood was a joke, like responsibility was ancient history. I stepped forward, slow, measured, every breath heavy with 40 years of parenting. And I said, not loud but strong, "Y'all might not know me, but she does, and she knows I didn't come here to play." The room didn't go silent, but the energy shifted, like the air recognized a woman who'd walked through storms and wasn't afraid of a little rain. I reached my daughter. Up close, I could see it, the makeup hiding tired eyes, the shaking hands, the forced confidence of a girl pretending she was grown. I touched her arm, lightly. "Baby, it's time to go." She whispered, "Mom, please, not here," and her voice cracked, the real her slipping through. I leaned in and said softly, "I will embarrass you to save you. I will drag you out to protect you. I will be the mother you need, not the one you think you want." Her eyes filled with tears, fear, shame, relief. Then she nodded. As we turned to leave, someone behind us snickered. Man, I thought she was about to fight. I stopped, looked over my shoulder, and said, "A real mother doesn't need to fight. Her presence is the warning." And with that, I walked my daughter out of that house, step by step, like I was leading her away from a cliff she didn't even know she was standing on. The night air hit us as soon as we stepped outside. Cool, sharp, honest, like the truth we'd both been running from. My daughter walked beside me, but her steps were small, careful, like she was afraid the ground might judge her too. We reached my car. She paused before getting in, staring at the door handle, like it was a confession she didn't know how to make. I didn't say a word, not yet. Sometimes silence is the only safe place between a mother and a hurting child. We both got in. The engine started, but the air inside felt heavier than the street outside. She looked out the window, her face half in shadow, half in guilt. I let a full minute pass before I spoke. "Aisha, baby, talk to me." Her voice came out thin, like she had to filter it through regret. "Mom, I'm sorry. I wanted to feel free tonight." I kept my eyes on the road. Free from what? She didn't answer at first, and when she did, it was barely a whisper. From everything, from school, from people judging me, from myself. I felt her pain like it was my own, because in a way, it was. Pain runs in families, the way eye color does. "Why that place?" I asked. My voice wasn't angry, just tired and scared. She swallowed hard. "My friends said it helped me forget. Just dance, drink a little, feel grown." I turned to her. "Baby, you don't need to feel grown. You need to feel safe." Her chin trembled. She lifted her sleeve and wiped her face quickly, like she didn't want me to see the tears. I reached over and held her hand. Not tight, just enough to remind her she wasn't alone in this world. She whispered, "Mom, Were you really scared? My breath broke in my chest. I didn't hide it. I thought I might lose you tonight, and I've already lost too much in this life. The road lights passed over her face, bright, dark, bright, dark, like the truth flickering inside her. Then she said something that hurt more than anything else that night. Sometimes I don't tell you things because I'm scared you'll see how broken I really am. My voice shook when I answered, "Baby, listen to me. Broken people belong to somebody too, and you belong to me." Her shoulders finally collapsed, all the pride falling off her like loose stones. She cried, not loud, not messy, just soft, like her heart was leaking instead of breaking. I squeezed her hand. "We'll fix this, together, but you gotta let me in." And for the first time in a long time, she nodded without hesitation. We drove the rest of the way in silence, not the cold kind, but the healing kind. The kind of silence where two people realize they still have a chance to find each other again. When we finally pulled into the driveway, the house looked different, quieter, older, like it had been holding its breath the whole night. Aisha stayed seated for a moment, her hand still in mine, not ready to let go, and not ready to speak. I understood. Some nights end, but the weight they leave behind takes a little longer to put down. We walked inside. No yelling, no slamming doors. Just two tired souls trying to find a softer place to land. I made her tea, chamomile, the same kind I used to brew when she was a little girl afraid of thunder. She sat at the kitchen table, knees pulled close, looking small again, like the world had peeled the grown-up mask off her face. "Mom," she said quietly, "am I disappointing you?" I sat across from her and reached for her hands. "Baby, disappointment is when someone stops trying, and you haven't stopped. You're struggling, yes, but you're still here. You're still fighting your way back." She blinked fast, like she was trying to keep tears from spilling. "I don't know how to fix myself," she whispered. I leaned in, my voice soft as an old prayer. "You don't fix yourself alone. That's the lie the world tells you. Healing is something we do together. Piece by piece, truth by truth." She took a shaky breath, the kind that sounds like letting go of something she'd carried too long. "I'm scared," she said. "So am I," I answered. "But courage ain't the absence of fear, it's walking anyway." She nodded, and for the first time that night, she looked me in the eyes without hiding. "Can we start over?" she asked. I smiled, a tired, grateful smile shaped by a lifetime of storms survived. "Baby, every sunrise is a chance to start over, and you and we got plenty more sunrises left." We talked for hours, soft words, honest words, the kind of words that stitch wounds from the inside out. And somewhere between midnight and morning, the fear in her eyes began to fade, replaced with something gentler, something like hope. Before she went to bed, she hugged me, not rushed, not forced, but fully, like she finally remembered where home really was. I held her close and whispered, "You belong here. You belong to yourself, and you belong to a future much bigger than tonight." After she went upstairs, I sat alone for a moment, looking at that empty teacup across the table. I thought about all the years, all the lessons, all the losses, all the love. And I realized something simple, something true. Peace doesn't come all at once. It comes quietly, one truth at a time. And that night, my daughter and I found our first truth together. A truth that held us both. A truth that whispered, "You survived this night. Now, live the next one better." And I intend to.